welcome, Jay Manari, Festival Director and Founder, and I'll be hosting this live stream today. With me, I have Luca Paci, our film script juror. Luca is also the co-founder of the Italian Cultural Centre of Wales and the organizer of the Italian Film Festival of Cardiff. Say hello, Luca.
Hi, guys.
Thank you so much for being with us. And our
Pleasure.
special guest today is Jaik Andino. He's the script writer of Second Date. This is really, I would say, an impressive short script, so feature script that has been submitted to our festival and has already received many recognition. A very interesting note from Jaik. He is an Indian immigrant in the Midwest, and this is something that, in a way, as he wrote a lot of triumphs and traumas. So we will be also interested to hear a little bit more about this background that might have inspired ideas for his script. So without any other delays, I'd love to start the Q&A session, and I'd love to have Luca giving us his first question, please.
Okay, yeah. First of all, it's a real pleasure to meet you, Jake.
Same here.
And I really enjoyed the screenplay. The protagonist has got your name and surname, so I would assume that there is a certain degree of autobiographical stuff there. He's a man in his 30s, so I wanted to ask you. The first question is Jake, how Jake is similar to the Jake, the real Jake?
Really, the honest way to answer that may take a few drinks, to tell you what is the real events versus the but no, in all seriousness, it is based on my experiences. As Jay, as you mentioned, growing up as an immigrant, I was born in India, in South India. I came to the U.S., Chicago specifically, when I was a baby. So growing up, there's a lot of influences of having Indian parents, but also kind of growing up in America. And it's I think wonderful to be able to tell a story about two friends, from different places. The other best friend is, Caucasian, grew up in Texas, so has that kind of the booming accent, and having these best friends, but telling a story about those differences through comedy. So I know and I didn't answer your question whatsoever, Luca.
I think you did.
But there is a fair amount of similarities, actually. So
there's a lot of overlapping.
A lot of overlapping, and and I actually toyed with, do I use myself in the story? But then I just said, what, let's just go for it. Because the name, of course, in the beginning of the story, how he gets his name, I think was just really funny. When that did actually happen to me. And then the first grader spells his name. My Indian name is Jaik Kumar, much longer. And this teacher was really, really old. I'll never forget. Her vein was popping out of her neck. She was like, Jaik, Jaik. She was trying to say the name, and I was so scared, mortified. I was like, please go to the next person, And then she, someone calls me Jake, and I'm like, and I didn't even know how to spell it. So I spelled it Jaik. And actually the story in 6th grade, years later, another teacher was like, hey, Jake is spelled Jake, right? I freaked out. I was like, what? I ran home. I talked to my parents, my friends, my other best friend. And I was like, hey, do you know Jake is Jake? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, why didn't you tell me for 5 years? He's like, I thought you wanted to spell it like an idiot, So I was like, no, I didn't. And I tried to spell it Jaik for about a week, and I just couldn't. So some of those things, I think everyone has those similar, whatever background you have those similar stories, right? That's how you grew up, and you have those different things. So I thought, let's just go for it. So yeah. That's one thing that's true, Luca.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I really like the the casual racism of the environment, which is not nasty, but it's just dictated by ignorance and sort of like mainly ignorance, really, and the fact that it's not necessarily sometimes this racism is not necessarily nasty, and I think children can understand the difference between sort of like and you navigate well that kind of the kind of border between being and you mentioned in your script the walk the walk term, which is now obviously has replaced the PC, being PC now. Now we say walk, and so I wanted to ask you about Wyatt, who's your white friend, well, Jake's white friend, a redneck from Texas, and Jake. So how do you did you think about it out of your experience, or was it just something that came with the script?
No, I that was out of my experience, and I've experienced both sides, and I think the story really focuses on I think maybe this is common to the human race, but we oftentimes focus on our differences versus how similar we are, and this story really kind of shines a light on that. Of course, it's completely told through comedy, and didn't want to make the story too much about that, but it's there, it's sprinkled throughout, and of course the big argument right in the middle of the story where they really fight about that, and it comes to the surface of they're completely the same, they're completely both Americans, but one has a slightly different experience in the country as opposed to the other, but that the white friend, Wyatt, he raises that, right? He kind of says that's fine, there's going to be racism, there's always that in the world, but you have a choice. You can live with hate in your heart, or you can choose love. And I've never seen color in my life. We're best friends since we're childhood friends. So a lot of those discussions, I've had with friends, and so that is based on kind of a real person, actually. And I've also traveled all over the country and talked to a lot of folks, and so that's kind of how that came about. So
right, let's not forget the audience, so let's give them a little bit of a summary of Second Date. So what's this story about in a nutshell, Jake? Just let's share it with your own words to the audience.
Oh yeah, it's about two best friends, Wyatt and Jake, as Luca mentioned, and they grow up together, and it's about their journey to find love. And the first act is all about going through a lot of tribulations of trying to find love, their first dates. It escalates. They end up in bed together, after a crazy night. I won't tell you what happens. You'll have to read it or see it. And so they get professional help, a matchmaker. And, as Luca mentioned earlier, they think they go on these amazing dates. It's like, oh my God, they're freaking out. They want to basically, get married in the same month and have babies at the same time. They were like planning their whole lives, but little do they know, the women do not, they do not feel that, and so they go back to the matchmaker, and they really, get feedback, and my character gets feedback, or the Jake character gets feedback that he's, not masculine enough. So he doesn't really know what that means. He's like, he's telling the matchmaker, I'll wear camo pants for the rest of my life, and then Wyatt gets feedback he's not woke enough, and he doesn't know what that means. And so he's like, I'm awake all the time. I only sleep 5 hours a night. And so they're both kind of lost and so they make a decision. They're like, we are gonna get our second dates, and and with these women, and that was the journey that kind of sets them off into a road trip, an adventure, to not only find love, but really discover what friendship truly means, what love means, what it means for loyalty and sticking together, and then we hope there's a positive ending, right? So
Of course. In terms of um, the upcoming great news, I read that in 2023 you're planning to make this into an actual feature film, right?
yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal. So we're putting together our production team. We have a good number of leaders on our team, and so the goal is to actually this summer just kind of film one scene, just kind of proof of concept. Where of course, nothing cannot happen without money. So that's the real goal this summer and fall, really focusing on that. But we've already raised some funds for the movie, so really excited. And then I'm focusing on actually a comedy short as well, completely separate, but just to kind of introduce the comedy that's behind the movie. So pretty excited, but that's the plan. Yep.
That's amazing. That's great.
Yeah.
Any other question, Luca?
Yeah, I like the fact that obviously you're Indian, but also there are American Indians, and you put the American Indians in this mix as well, just to confuse the whole thing. It's a pun within a pun. So you got these two friends, and their quest is to go with the help of an Indian tech girl, the matchmaker's assistant, to go to in an Indian reserve. Is it where is it again? What nation is it? In Pennsylvania, is it? I forgot.
No, it'll be in the South Dakota area.
South Dakota, sorry.
Yeah.
In South Dakota. So they go to South Dakota, and there is this kind of, so Indian American and Indian. So that's quite interesting as well.
Yeah, it's kind of a melting pot, right? So from that perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
In the pot, we have American Indians, Americans that are from India, Americans, and all sexuality types, so everything is kind of in there.
Yeah, I like that as well, because obviously, the couples, different kinds of couples and different kinds of ways of looking at the world. But as you said, there's a lot of humor in it, which is great. So I'm interested in the Indian. How did you get this Indian American and Indian? This kind of
that idea.
Yes.
So I think and sometimes I always wonder how other writers and things come to life. For me, to be honest, it was a dream. The street signs that really funny. So on the road trip, to prove they're woke, there's this concept that some American Indians, there's a discussion in America that some American Indians can't vote, given some of the strict rules around voting. So the part of the road trip is to go and plant street signs and get these American Indians the right things to vote, so to prove they're woke. And all of that, to be honest, Luca, came from a dream. I woke up, I had the dream, and then I actually, because I work still in the corporate world, I had help to get research. I still couldn't find everything. Then one day I found everything, and the dream almost came true. So it was all from a dream, to be honest. And so I'm really excited. And the names are actual names from the last American Indian battle. The street sign names, I know they're funny names and they're really crazy, but that was the last American Indian battle. The people that lost ended up giving those funny names. And so I think there's some historical context as well. So maybe God or someone else shot it into my dreams, but that's kind of where it came from.
Yeah, because I like the fact that obviously, as you said, it's a comedy, it's light-hearted, but at the same time there is this kind of past, the past of the American, Indian Americans, American Indians, the genocide, the wiping out of these people, and the whole, you know, that's in the background, but it's still there. And the fact that they cannot even vote because they don't have a permanent address, and it's a real issue, you know, in certain parts of the states, is interesting. And all these things help the two friends to get more familiar with life, you know, and in their issues. And I like that both of them kind of at the end, without giving any spoilers, at the end they understand that love is not about what you want, but also about what the other person wants, and it's a negotiation. It's about listening rather than getting something.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to your first point, you know, to have a discussion, you know, oftentimes, you know, especially in the political arenas, people are shouting, they're not listening to each other. And I think sometimes, you know, having a good discussion through comedy is amazing. People can laugh, and then, you know, they can have the same dialogue. So that was kind of the point of that there is very serious themes sprinkled throughout, but said in this very humorous, complete romantic comedy. I think hopefully, you know, the goal is to foster a good discussion. And then on the second part, I can't really comment. I think I'm still learning about love. So, you know, maybe everyone
we are all, of course.
but I think there is something about about listening. So hopefully it was a good message about love there. So, and especially with the ending, you know, how it ended. That's the last image you see on the screen, and hopefully it leaves the audience with a positive feeling. So.
And also many people can relate, because there are many people in their 30s going maybe for their second date. So I think you chose something that is very much universal. So I think, yeah, it's even the title, it's really, I think, appealing. People will be curious. I will be personally more curious about the second date than the first date. The first date is a bit, you know, predictable in many ways, but a second date can be even more interesting and more unpredictable. So that's even, you know, a sharper choice for the title.
Yeah, exactly. Like if this is our first date, on my second date, my hair is completely down, and I'm myself.
Exactly. It's great that we are like so spontaneous in this Q&A. I love that. We're sharing our hairstyles.
There's also a very interesting, because in the script you play a lot with flashbacks. So you got Jake and Wyatt as kids, and then Jake and Wyatt, you know, as adults. And without giving anything away, again, you keep on going back to the childhood, and you seem to suggest that obviously what happens in childhood does leave, you know, marks your life and your relations. Can you maybe say something about that?
Yeah, it definitely, you know, it definitely I think there's something about being your true self when you're a child, and those experiences, you know, definitely influence how you think, and you know, when it kind of leads up to that, the apex of the story, and that final kind of, you know, point of that really serious discussion, that argument that Jake and Wyatt have. There is all of those flashbacks are supposed to kind of come up to this point of there was racism then, and there will be now, and all of those things, and you tend to let that consume you. But also through all of that, there was a shining light, which was Wyatt, the best friend who never had anything, you know, only showed support and love and friendship. And so you have those choices, right? So you can kind of let, you know, this the negative stuff that happened to you consume you, and you can live with hate in your heart, or, you know, you have that choice. And so that flashbacks kind of show that, but, you know, we're really meant to kind of put that to the audience, and I'm hoping the audience feels that, because Wyatt presents that choice to Jake, and, you know, of course there's a moment of kind of pause and So that's, I think, where, and then of course just showing the friendship and how that kind of blossomed was that it hopefully people will feel that, this closeness of them and everything. So
that's awesome. I think we are at the end of our Q&A session, but it's been really a pleasure to go with you, Jaik. I just have 2 reminders for our audience. So the date is approaching on the 17th of March at 7 p.m. at the World Cinema of London. We'll be streaming the winners of the 3rd edition. And from the 14th till the 17th of March, you'll also be able to watch in streaming all the finalists and vote for your favorite. So there will be a Best Film Audience Award. To vote for your favorite, you just have to go on Facebook, look for London Film Events Group, join there, and look for the poll that will be posted at midnight on the 14th and removed on the 17th at 6 p.m. right before the beginning of the event. So stay tuned if you want to attend the event. Really very few tickets left over, so look through our links on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, all our social media pages, on our website www.miraban.uk, and you'll be able to find it. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Jaik, for being with us. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Luca, and see you in the next live stream.
Yes,
Bye.
Thank you, Luca. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Ciao.